The jungle canopy of Krishna 7 stretched endlessly in every direction, thick vines hanging between massive trees that pierced the clouds. Maya Brooks wiped sweat from her forehead as she navigated the crowded marketplace at the edge of the settlement. The air smelled of exotic spices, ozone from plasma vendors, and the ever-present dampness of the rainforest. She had been stationed on this frontier world for 3 months now, working as an engineer for the Galactic Council's peacekeeping operations. Most days involved repairing water filtration systems or recalibrating communication arrays. Today was her first real day off in weeks, and she intended to enjoy it. The marketplace was a strange blend of species and cultures. Tall, insectoid clicking traders bartered with stubby Gren merchants over containers of preserved foods. A group of gelatinous Aquians floated in specialized hover tanks, their translucent bodies pulsing with bioluminescent patterns as they examined jewelry. Maya had grown accustomed to being one of the few humans in most spaces, though she still drew curious stares from species who had never seen her kind before. She stopped at a stall selling crystallized fruits, picking up a bright orange specimen that sparkled in the afternoon light. The vendor, a 4-armed Beshan with kind eyes, chittered something in broken council common. 2 credits, yes? Very sweet. Good for human digestion. Maya smiled and nodded, fishing the coins from her pocket. As the vendor wrapped her purchase, the ground beneath her feet trembled slightly. She frowned, glancing around. Several other shoppers had paused too, their various sensory organs swiveling in confusion. The tremor came again, stronger this time. A clay pot fell from a nearby table and shattered. The vendor's eyes widened, and he began rapidly securing his goods with his multiple arms. "Groundquake," he said urgently. "You go to shelter, now. Big one coming." Maya's training kicked in immediately. She scanned the marketplace, noting the nearest reinforced structures. Most vendors were already packing up with practiced efficiency. This world was tectonically active and quakes were common, but something about the way the vendor had said "big one" made her pulse quicken. The third tremor hit like a hammer. Maya stumbled, catching herself against a support post. All around her, beings scrambled for safety. The sound was deafening, crashing merchandise, alarmed cries in a dozen languages, and beneath it all, a deep rumbling that seemed to come from the planet's core itself. Then she heard it. A sound that cut through the chaos like a knife. High-pitched squealing, distressed, desperate, coming from the direction of the jungle. Maya turned toward the tree line, her eyes searching. Most people were running away from that direction, toward the solid buildings of the main settlement. She should follow them. That was the smart choice, the safe choice. The squealing came again, more frantic now. Her feet carried her forward before her brain fully engaged. She pushed through the fleeing crowd, moving against the tide. Someone shouted at her in a language she didn't understand, probably telling her she was going the wrong way. She ignored them. At the jungle's edge, the ground sloped upward into a rocky hillside. Maya had hiked past this area before. There were caves and overhangs where some of the local wildlife made their dens. The squealing was coming from somewhere in that direction. Another massive tremor struck. Maya watched in horror as a section of the hillside simply gave way. Boulders the size of ground vehicles tumbled down, crushing vegetation and sending up clouds of dust. The sound was like thunder that wouldn't stop. When the dust began to settle, the squealing had become weaker. But it was still there. Maya ran toward the collapsed site, her boots slipping on loose gravel. She could hear voices behind her, other beings shouting warnings. She didn't stop. Her engineering scanner was on her belt, always there out of habit. She pulled it out and activated it, sweeping the collapsed area. 3 life signs. Small. I'm buried under approximately 2 meters of rock and soil. Heart rates elevated. Oxygen levels dropping. She didn't recognize the species signature, but that didn't matter. Maya dropped to her knees and started digging with her hands, pushing aside smaller rocks and clawing at the packed earth. Her scanner indicated the most accessible point, and she focused her efforts there. Her fingernails broke. Her palms scraped raw against stone. She didn't care. Behind her, she heard someone approaching. A deep, rumbling voice spoke in heavily accented council common. Human, you must leave. This is Vorkai territory. The parents will return. Maya didn't turn around. She kept digging. There are children down here. They're dying. A pause. Then the voice again, more urgent. You do not understand. If the Vorkai find you here near their young, they will kill you. They will not ask questions. They will not hesitate. You must go now. Then help me dig faster, Maya shot back, her hands moving frantically. I'm not leaving them. She heard the being behind her make a sound of frustration and disbelief, then the sound of retreating footsteps. She was alone. Her fingers hit something different. Not rock. Something softer, covered in fur. She pulled harder, creating a gap. A small face appeared in the opening, covered in metallic gray fur with glowing blue markings along its cheeks. Large, terrified eyes stared at her. The cub opened its mouth and squealed again. Maya's breath caught. She knew what she was looking at. She had seen images in the council database. Vorkai, the most feared predator species in known space, a six-legged hunters that could tear through battle armor with their claws. Adults stood nearly 3 meters tall and were built like biological tanks. And she was currently trying to rescue their babies. The cub squealed again, a sound of pure terror and pain. Maya made her choice. She had already made it, really, the moment she heard that first cry. It's okay, she whispered, though the cub couldn't understand her words. I've got you. She widened the hole, ignoring the way sharp rocks cut her arms. The cub was wedged in tight, one of its legs caught under a flat stone. Maya pulled her multi-tool from her belt, extending the pry bar attachment. She worked it under the stone and leveraged it up just enough. The cub pulled free and scrambled into her arms, tiny but surprisingly heavy. Its fur was soft despite its metallic appearance. Now the cub buried its face against her chest, trembling. Maya could feel its rapid heartbeat against her own. 2 more to go. She set the first cub aside gently, in a sheltered spot away from loose rocks. It mewled pitifully but stayed put. Maya returned to the hole and kept digging, following her scanner's guidance. The second cub was easier to reach, trapped in a pocket of space that had protected it from the worst of the collapse. She pulled it free within minutes. The third one was deeper. Much deeper. Maya's scanner showed it pinned beneath a boulder that had to weigh at least 500 kilograms. The surrounding debris was unstable. Even as she assessed the situation, small rocks skittered down from above. The whole mass could shift at any moment. In the distance, she heard something that made her blood run cold, or a sound like nothing she had ever heard before. Deep, resonant, and utterly primal. A hunting call. The adult Vorkai were coming home. Maya looked at the 2 cubs she had saved, then back at the scanner showing the third still trapped and suffocating. She could run now. Take the 2 she had saved and get to safety. The adults might be grateful for that. Or they might kill her for touching their young. There was no way to know. The trapped cub's vital signs were dropping. Minutes left, maybe less. Maya grabbed her pry bar again and crawled into the unstable collapse zone, toward the massive boulder pinning the third cub. She could hear the hunting calls getting closer. Multiple voices now, at least 5 or 6 adult Vorkai. Her hands found the boulder. She positioned the pry bar. This was going to take leverage she didn't have, or strength beyond what her human frame could provide. She tried anyway. The boulder shifted slightly. Debris rained down on her back. Maya ignored it, pushing harder. Her muscles screamed. The pry bar bent under the strain. The cub beneath let out a weak cry. Maya planted her feet and pushed with everything she had. The boulder moved. Not much, just a few centimeters, but it was enough. Maya wedged a flat rock into the gap to hold it, then repositioned her pry bar. Sweat poured down her face, mixing with blood from a cut above her eyebrow. She pushed again, her arms shaking with effort. The hunting calls were closer now. So close she could hear the footfalls, heavy and rhythmic, like drums beating against the earth. The 2 rescued cubs behind her began making answering calls, high-pitched and urgent. They were calling for their parents. Maya knew she had seconds left. maybe less. She abandoned the pry bar and dropped to her belly, squeezing into the narrow gap beside the boulder. Her fingers found fur, and she grabbed hold. The cub was barely conscious, its breathing shallow. She pulled, but it wouldn't budge. One of its back legs was still pinned. The footfalls stopped. Maya couldn't see behind her from where she lay, wedged into the collapsed den, but she could feel the presence of something massive. Multiple somethings. The air itself seemed to change, charged with a predatory tension that made every instinct in her body scream at her to run. A shadow fell over the collapse site, blocking out the fading sunlight. Maya kept working, her fingers searching for the trapped leg. She found it, traced along until she felt the problem. On a smaller rock had the limb wedged at an angle. She worked it back and forth, trying to create enough space. "Step away from the cubs, human." The voice was deep, resonant, and spoke counsel common with an accent that turned each word into something between a growl and a purr. It was female, Maya realized distantly. Female and absolutely deadly. "Can't," Maya said, not turning around. She kept working the rock. "This one's still trapped. Almost got it. You will step away now, or you will die now. Those are your only choices." Maya felt the rock around the cub's leg shift. She pulled again. The cub came free suddenly, and she dragged it toward her, cradling it against her chest as she backed out of the gap. Only when she was clear did she turn around. 6 Vorkai stood in a semicircle around the collapse site. They were even more terrifying in person than any image could convey. Each stood nearly 3 meters tall on their 6 powerful legs. Their bodies were covered in that same metallic gray fur, with bioluminescent markings that now pulsed a deep, angry red. Their heads were broad and triangular, with eyes that glowed like molten gold. And in each of their forearms, they held blades. Long, curved weapons that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. The one who had spoken stood in the center. She was larger than the others, her markings more intricate. A leader. Her golden eyes fixed on Maya with an intensity that felt like being pinned by physical weight. Maya stood slowly, the injured cub still clutched in her arms. She could feel its heart beating rapidly against her ribs. The other 2 cubs were huddled together behind her, making small distressed sounds. The leader's eyes moved from Maya to the cubs, then back to Maya. Her blades rose slightly, catching the light. "You have touched our young. This is forbidden. The penalty is death." Maya's mouth was dry, but she forced herself to speak. She had studied dozens of alien languages during her training, picking up basic phrases when she could. Vorkai had been one of them, though she had never expected to use it. In halting, badly pronounced Vorkai, she said, "Cubs safe. Earth shook. Rocks fell. Cubs trapped. I pulled them out." The effect was immediate. All 6 Vorkai went absolutely still. The leader's eyes widened slightly, the first change in her expression since she had arrived. Behind her, one of the other warriors made a sound of shock. "You speak the old tongue," the leader said, switching to Vorkai herself. Her voice was marginally less hostile, more puzzled. Maya nodded, still speaking in broken Vorkai. "Little bit. Not good. Sorry." She gestured toward the 2 cubs behind her. "2 cubs free. This one," she lifted the cub in her arms slightly, "was under big rock. Just freed." The injured cub in her arms chose that moment to let out a weak cry. The leader's eyes snapped to it, and something in her expression changed. The red glow of her markings flickered, shifting toward orange. "Give me the cub," the leader said, extending one arm. Maya hesitated. The cub's breathing was labored, and there was blood matting the fur on its trapped leg. "It's hurt. The leg might be broken. Needs medical help." "Give me the cub." Maya stepped forward, moving slowly and carefully. She kept her eyes down, some instinct telling her that direct eye contact might be seen as a challenge. She placed the cub into the leader's massive arm. The Vorkai leader held her injured offspring with surprising gentleness, examining it with quick efficiency. Her markings were shifting through colors now: red, orange, yellow, back to red. The other two cubs had run to the other warriors, who were checking them for injuries with the same careful attention. The leader looked up at Maya again. Her voice was quieter now, but no less dangerous. You are covered in blood. The den collapsed on you as well. Maya glanced down at herself. Her uniform was torn and filthy, streaked with dirt and blood. Her arms were covered in cuts and scrapes. She hadn't really noticed. I'm okay, just scratches. You could have run when the groundquake hit. Well, you could have run when you heard us coming. Why did you stay? Maya met the Vorkai's eyes then, unable to help herself. Because they're children. I heard them crying. I couldn't just leave them to die. The leader stared at her for a long moment. The other warriors had gone completely silent, watching the exchange. Even the cubs had quieted. What is your name, human? Maya Brooks, Lieutenant, Galactic Council Engineering Corps. I am Shenka, pack leader of the Stone Ridge clan. These are my cubs. My family. Shenka shifted the injured cub to cradle it more securely. You have done something no outsider has ever done. You have touched Vorkai young and lived. Do you know why you still breathe? Maya shook her head. Because I am trying to understand what I am seeing. You are prey, small, weak, fragile. You have no claws, you no natural weapons, yet you dug through stone with your bare hands until they bled. You stayed in an unstable collapse that could have buried you. You learned our language, even poorly spoken, and you pulled my cubs from death. Shenka's markings shifted to a blue Maya hadn't seen before. This makes no sense to me. It makes sense to me, Maya said quietly. They needed help. I could help. That's all the sense it needs to make. One of the other warriors spoke then, his voice harsh. Pack leader, this violates every law. She has touched the cubs. Protocol demands. Silence, Shenka said, not looking away from Maya. I know what protocol demands. The ground trembled again, another aftershock. Not as strong as before, but enough to send loose rocks skittering. Maya glanced up at the unstable hillside above them. More debris could come down at any moment. You should get the cubs to safety, Maya said. This area isn't stable. There could be more collapses. Shenka tilted her head, studying Maya with an expression that was impossible to read. You give me advice on protecting my own cubs? I give you information from an engineering perspective. The rock strata here is fractured. See those cracks? Maya pointed toward the hillside. Another strong quake and the whole thing comes down. You need to move them at least 200 meters from here. There's stable ground to the east. Shenka looked where Maya pointed, then back at the human. She spoke to her warriors in rapid Vorkai, too fast for Maya to follow. Two of them immediately took the cubs, all three now accounted for, and began moving away from the collapse site. The remaining warriors stayed, forming a loose circle around Maya and their leader. The cubs are safe now, Shenka said, which brings me to the matter of you. Maya's heart sank. She had known this was coming. The Vorkai had a reputation throughout the galaxy. Fierce, proud, and utterly unforgiving of perceived insults. Touching their young without permission was apparently one of the worst insults possible. I understand, Maya said quietly. I broke your law. I just wanted to make sure they were safe first. Shenka's blades shifted in her hands, the movement casual but unmistakably threatening. You understand nothing, Maya Brooks. You have created a situation that has no precedent in 10,000 years of Vorkai history. You have touched our cubs, yes, but you did so to save their lives. You bled for them. You risked your own death for them. The hillside above them groaned, a deep sound that came from shifting stone. Cracks spread across the rock face like lightning. We need to move, Maya said urgently. Now. Shenka ignored her, still speaking. In our culture, there is a concept called... The hillside gave way. Tons of rock and earth came crashing down, a wall of debris roaring toward them. Maya saw it happening as if in slow motion, her mind calculating trajectories and impact points with the automatic precision of her engineering training. She also saw that she was standing directly in its path. Time seemed to freeze. Maya's body understood before her mind did. There was nowhere to run. The cascade of rock and earth was too wide, moving too fast. She was going to die here, on this alien world, in this alien jungle, having just saved 3 cubs that belonged to the galaxy's most dangerous predators. She had time for one thought. At least the cubs made it out. Then something massive slammed into her from the side. Not rock. Something that moved with purpose. Maya hit the ground hard. The air knocked from her lungs. A huge weight covered her, pressing her flat against the earth. She could feel fur against her skin, smell something wild and sharp. The roar of the collapse was deafening. Rock smashed into rock. Dust filled the air so thick it was like being underwater. Maya couldn't see, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but lie there beneath whatever was covering her. Then, slowly, the sound faded. The rumbling stopped. Silence fell, broken only by the occasional clatter of a settling stone. The weight on top of Maya shifted. She gasped, it dragging air into her starved lungs. The air was still choked with dust, and she coughed violently. Above her, something moved. A massive shape rising up, blocking out the sky. Shenka stood over her, all 6 legs braced wide, her forearms spread. Her body was covered in dust and small cuts, and one of her shoulders was bleeding where a rock had struck her. But she was alive. And so was Maya. The pack leader had thrown herself on top of the human, shielding her with her own body. Maya stared up at her, unable to speak. Her mind couldn't process what had just happened. This being, who moments ago had been threatening to kill her, had just saved her life. Shenka's golden eyes met hers. The Vorkai's markings were pulsing rapidly through colors Maya had never seen. Deep purple, bright green, silver. Her expression was unreadable. Can you stand?" Shenka asked. Maya nodded, though she wasn't entirely sure. Shenka stepped back, giving her space. Maya pushed herself up, wincing. Her left arm hurt badly, and when she looked down, she saw it was bent at an angle that was definitely wrong. Broken, probably in 2 places. Blood was running down from a gash on her side where something sharp had caught her. She tried to stand and immediately her legs buckled. Shenka caught her with one arm, steadying her with surprising gentleness. "You are injured," the pack leader said. "So are you," Maya managed to say, nodding toward Shenka's bleeding shoulder. "A scratch. You, however, are badly hurt." Shenka turned toward her remaining warriors. "Krenva, bring the medical kit, now." One of the warriors hurried away. The other 2 moved closer, their weapons now sheathed. No, they were looking at Maya with expressions she couldn't read. Not hostile exactly, but intensely curious. Maya's vision was starting to blur at the edges. She recognized the signs of shock setting in. Her breathing was too fast, too shallow. She tried to focus on Shenka's face, using it as an anchor point. "Why did you do that?" Maya asked. "You could have just moved. You're fast enough." "Yes," Shenka agreed. "I could have." "Then why?" The Vorkai pack leader was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Maya had heard it before. "You gave your body to shield my cub from falling rock. You pushed it to safety and took the impact yourself. I watched on my neural recorder. I saw everything you did in that collapsed den." Maya's broken arm was starting to throb with a pain that made her stomach turn. She gritted her teeth against it. "That's different. I'm bigger than the cub. Made sense." "I am bigger than you," Shenka pointed out. "By your logic, it makes sense that I shield you." The warrior named Krenva returned carrying a large metallic case. Shenka took it and opened it, revealing medical supplies. She pulled out a device that looked like a scanner and passed it over Maya's body. It beeped several times, displaying information in Vorkai script. "Broken arm, 2 fractures," Shenka said, reading the display. 3 broken ribs. Deep laceration on your left side. Significant blood loss. Internal bruising. She looked at Maya with those intense golden eyes. "You will not die from these injuries, but you need treatment soon." Maya nodded. Speaking was becoming harder. The adrenaline that had carried her through the rescue was fading, leaving only pain and exhaustion. Shenka pulled out what looked like an injector and pressed it against Maya's neck. There was a soft hiss. Immediately, the pain began to recede, becoming distant and manageable. Maya's head cleared slightly. Vorkai medicine, Shenka explained. Strong. We'll keep you stable while we transport you to proper medical care. Thank you, Maya whispered. Shenka began wrapping Maya's broken arm with a rigid brace from the medical kit. Her large hands worked with surprising delicacy. You keep thanking me. Stop. I owe you a debt that cannot be measured. You saved 3 lives today. My cubs. My children. Do you understand what that means to us? Maya shook her head slightly. In Vorkai culture, family is everything. Pack is everything. To save a cub, especially one that is not your own, especially at risk to yourself. Shenka paused, seeming to search for words. There is no higher honor, and you saved 3. You, a stranger, a human, a being we have been taught to view as weak prey. One of the other warriors spoke up, his voice gruff. Pack leader, we should move. More quakes may come. Shenka nodded. She looked at Maya. I am going to carry you. Do not argue. You cannot walk, and we must move quickly. Before Maya could respond, Shenka scooped her up with 2 arms, cradling her against her broad chest. Maya found herself pressed against metallic fur that was surprisingly warm. She could feel the steady, powerful beat of Shenka's heart. The Vorkai began moving through the jungle with smooth, rapid strides. Her warriors flanked them, alert for any danger. Maya's head rested against Shenka's shoulder. She could feel consciousness slipping away, the Vorkai medicine making her drowsy. Stay awake, Maya Brooks, Shenka said firmly. You do not get to die after what you have done. I forbid it. Maya almost laughed at that, but it came out as a weak cough. Forbid it? Yes, you have touched my cubs. You have bled for them. You have proven yourself worthy of something I never thought I would offer to an outsider. Shenka's markings shifted to a steady, bright blue. You will live to see what that means. They emerged from the jungle into the settlement. Beings scattered at the sight of armed Vorkai warriors moving at speed through the streets. Maya could hear alarmed shouts, could see people running for cover. Vorkai in the settlement usually meant trouble. But Shenka ignored them all, heading straight for the medical center. She burst through the doors, and the staff inside froze in terror at the sight of her. This human needs immediate care, Shenka announced in council common. She has multiple broken bones and significant injuries. You will treat her now. A brave doctor, a clicking female with compound eyes, stepped forward. We will help her. Please, put her on the table. Shenka gently laid Maya down on an examination table. Medical staff immediately swarmed around, their scanners humming. Maya could hear their worried voices, feel their hands moving over her injuries. She looked up at Shenka, who stood beside the table like a guardian statue. Your cubs, Maya said weakly. Are they okay? They are with our healers. The injured one will recover fully. Thanks to you. Shenka reached down and gently touched Maya's forehead with one clawed finger. Rest now, little savior. When you wake, we will talk more. Maya's eyes were already closing. The last thing she saw was Shenka's face, those golden eyes watching her with an expression that might have been respect, or perhaps something deeper. The medical staff worked around her, their voices urgent but controlled. Maya heard words like surgery and blood transfusion and stabilize. She tried to stay conscious, tried to focus, but the darkness was pulling at her. Just before she went under, she heard Shenka speaking to someone in rapid Vorkai. The words were too fast for Maya to understand most of them, but she caught a few. Honor, debt, sacred, unprecedented. And then she heard nothing at all. When Maya opened her eyes again, or everything hurt. Not the sharp, immediate pain of broken bones, but a deep, aching soreness that filled her entire body. She was lying in a bed, surrounded by medical equipment. Soft lights glowed above her, and she could hear the steady beeping of monitors. She turned her head slightly and immediately regretted it as pain lanced through her neck. But the movement let her see who was in the room with her. Shenka sat in a corner, too large for any of the chairs, so she simply sat on the floor with her legs folded beneath her. Her golden eyes were open and fixed on Maya, Beside her, curled against her side, were the three cubs. All three alive, all three safe. "You are awake," Shenka said quietly. "Good. The doctor said you would recover, but I wanted to see it for myself." Maya's throat was dry. She tried to speak, but only a croak came out. Shenka rose smoothly and moved to a table beside Maya's bed. She poured water into a cup and held it to Maya's lips, supporting her head with one massive hand. Maya drank gratefully, the cool liquid soothing her parched throat. "Thank you," Maya whispered. "You have been unconscious for 2 days," Shenka said, setting the cup down. "The doctors repaired your arm and ribs. They said you lost much blood, but you are strong. You will heal." Maya looked at the cubs, who were watching her with bright, curious eyes. Their bioluminescent markings glowed softly in shades of blue and green. The one with the bandaged leg was nestled between its siblings, looking much healthier than when Maya had pulled it from the rubble. "They're okay?" Maya asked. "Yes, all three will make full recoveries." Shenka settled back down, and the cubs immediately climbed on her, purring sounds rumbling from their small chests. "They have been asking about you, in their own way." "Asking about me?" "They want to see the soft one who dug through stone, the strange creature who smelled of fear but did not run." Shenka's markings shifted to warm gold. "Cubs have good instincts. They know you saved them." Maya tried to sit up, but her body protested sharply. Shenka made a disapproving sound and gently pushed her back down. "Rest. You are not healed enough to move yet." "How long will I be here?" "Another week, perhaps more. But there are things we must discuss before then." Shenka's expression became serious. "What you did, Maya Brooks, has created a situation my people have not faced in generations. I have sent word to the clan elders. They are coming here to meet you." Maya felt a flutter of anxiety in her chest. "Is that bad?" "I do not know yet. It is unprecedented." Shenka was quiet for a moment, watching the cubs play around her. "In our history, there is a sacred law called the life debt. When someone saves a Vorkai's life, especially a cub's life, a bond is created, a debt that must be repaid." "You don't owe me anything," Maya said quickly. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Shenka said firmly. "You did what no one else did. You did what no one else would do. There were others nearby when the collapse happened. Other beings who heard the cubs crying. They all ran away. You ran toward danger." Maya didn't know what to say to that. It hadn't felt like a choice at the time. It still didn't. "The problem," Shenka continued, "is that you are not Vorkai. The life debt has never been owed to an outsider before. My people must decide how to honor this. It is why the elders are coming." The door to the medical room opened. A human man entered, wearing the uniform of a Galactic Council officer. He was in his 40s, with gray hair and kind eyes that widened when he saw Shenka and the cubs. "Lieutenant Brooks," he said, his voice relieved. "Thank God you're awake. I'm Captain Jake Morrison, your commanding officer. I came as soon as I heard what happened." Maya tried to salute, but couldn't manage it with her injuries. Morrison waved it off. "Don't worry about protocol. Just focus on getting better." He glanced at Shenka nervously. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "You are not," Shenka said. "You are Maya Brooks's pack leader, yes? In your human hierarchy?" Morrison blinked at the phrasing. I'm her commanding officer, yes?" "Good. Then you should hear this as well." Shenka stood, and even Morrison, who was tall for a human, had to crane his neck to look up at her. "Your officer saved my cubs' lives at great risk to herself. This creates a bond between our peoples. The Vorkai do not forget such things." Morrison looked at Maya with something like awe. "Lieutenant, do you realize what you've done? The Vorkai are one of the most powerful warrior species in the galaxy. They've been neutral in council affairs for decades. If this creates some kind of alliance—" "I wasn't thinking about politics," Maya said weakly. "I just heard kids crying." One of the cubs made a chirping sound and scrambled across the floor toward Maya's bed. Before Shenka could stop it, the little creature had climbed up onto the mattress and was sniffing at Maya's hand with a small, wet nose. Shenka moved quickly, but carefully. "Kreshini, no. The human is injured. You must be gentle." The cub ignored its mother and curled up against Maya's side, purring loudly. The sound vibrated through the mattress. Despite her pain, Maya found herself smiling. She carefully moved her good hand to rest on the cub's back. Its fur was incredibly soft. The other two cubs saw their sibling getting attention and immediately wanted the same. They bounded over and tried to climb up too. Shenka caught them with her lower arms. No, Maya Brooks needs rest, not cubs crawling all over her. But there was warmth in her voice, and her markings had shifted to a soft pink color that Maya suspected meant affection or amusement. E. Morrison was staring, his mouth slightly open. This is incredible. I've never heard of Vorkai cubs being comfortable around another species. They imprinted on her scent when she pulled them from the collapse, Shenka explained. They recognize her as a protector now. It will not fade. Over the next few days, Maya's room became an unexpected gathering place. Morrison visited regularly, bringing her reports and messages from other crew members. The medical staff checked on her constantly, their initial fear of Shenka gradually fading as they realized the Vorkai was there to protect, not threaten. And Shenka never left. She stayed in that corner, day and night, with the cubs playing around her or sleeping against her side. Other Vorkai warriors came and went, bringing food and supplies. They all stopped to stare at Maya, their golden eyes studying her with intense curiosity. On the fifth day, Maya was finally able to sit up on her own. Her arm was still in a regeneration brace and her ribs ached, but she was healing. She was picking at a meal the hospital had provided when Shenka spoke. They are coming today, the elders. They will arrive within the hour. Maya's appetite vanished. What should I expect? I do not know. This has never happened before. Shenka's markings were flickering between colors rapidly, which Maya had learned meant she was agitated or uncertain. The elders are old and set in traditional ways. What you did violates our laws about outsiders touching cubs, but it also honors our deepest values about protecting the young. They must decide which matters more. What happens if they decide the law matters more? Shenka met her eyes. Then I will fight them. You saved my cubs. That makes you pack, regardless of what species you were born to. I will not let anyone harm you. The words were said with such conviction that Maya felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. Morrison arrived shortly after, along with two other humans Maya recognized from the peacekeeping base. A woman named Lisa Grant, a medic with dark skin and bright, intelligent eyes. And a man named Kevin Torres, head of security, built like a tank and usually stone-faced, though right now he looked nervous. We're here as witnesses, Morrison explained. The Vorkai requested human presence for this meeting. Specifically, they wanted people who know you. Lisa came to Maya's bedside and squeezed her good hand. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a landslide, Maya said with a weak smile. Because you did, Kevin pointed out. You're insane, you know that? But in a good way? Before Maya could respond, the door opened again. This time, 6 Vorkai entered, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. These were older than any Vorkai Maya had seen before. Their fur was streaked with silver and white, and their markings were complex patterns that covered their entire bodies. They moved with a dignity and presence that made even Shenka straighten up. The lead elder was massive, even for a Vorkai. His markings were pure silver, and his eyes were a pale gold that seemed to look straight through Maya. I am Elder Kreshevar, he said, in perfect council common. We have come to see the human who touched our young. Shenka stepped forward, positioning herself between the elders and Maya's bed. Elder, this is Lieutenant Maya Brooks. She saved my 3 cubs from certain death during the groundquake. She used her own body to shield them from falling rock. She broke her own bones in the process. Kreshevar's gaze moved to the cubs, who were huddled together, watching the elders with wide eyes. Then his gaze returned to Maya. Stand, human, if you're able. Maya pushed herself up, ignoring the pain. Lisa moved to help her, but Maya shook her head. She needed to do this herself. She got to her feet, swaying slightly but staying upright. Morrison and Kevin moved closer, ready to catch her if she fell. Elder Kreshevar studied her for a long moment. The room was completely silent except for the beeping of medical monitors. You are very small, he finally said. Very weak. Yet you moved stones that should have been impossible for your kind to move. Why? Maya met his eyes, forcing herself not to look away. Because they needed help. Because I could hear them crying. Because I couldn't walk away knowing they would die if I did nothing. You knew we would come. You knew we might kill you for touching them. Yes. Yet you stayed. Yes? Kreshavar's expression was unreadable. You value cubs that are not your own above your own life. This is the Vorkai way. But you are not Vorkai. Maya took a breath, choosing her words carefully. I don't know much about Vorkai ways. I just know that leaving children to die, any children, is something I couldn't do, even if it cost me everything. The other elders had moved closer, forming a semicircle around her bed. One of them, a female with deep blue markings, spoke next. You speak our language. Poorly, but you speak it. Where did you learn this? From study files. When I was assigned to this world, I tried to learn about all the species here. Basic phrases, signs of respect. Maya's legs were starting to shake from standing, but she refused to sit. I wanted to understand my neighbors. The blue-marked elder exchanged a look with Kreshavar. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication. Shenka stepped closer to Maya. Elders, you can see she is still healing. This conversation is taxing her strength. Let her stand, Kreshavar said. If she wishes to be judged as Vorkai, she will endure as Vorkai do. Maya gritted her teeth and stayed upright. Beside her, Morrison looked like he wanted to protest, but Kevin put a hand on his shoulder, shaking his head slightly. This was Maya's test, to pass or fail. We have discussed your actions, Kreshavar continued. We have reviewed the recordings from Shenka's neural implant. We have seen everything you did. Every moment from when you first heard the cubs until you lost consciousness. Another elder spoke, this one male with red and gold markings. You could have taken the 2 freed cubs and run. You would have been seen as a hero. Instead, you risked everything for the 3rd. I couldn't leave it there, Maya said simply. It was still alive, still fighting. How could I give up on it when it hadn't given up? The red and gold elder's markings flickered. This is the answer of a warrior, not what we expected from a human engineer. Kreshavar raised one hand, and the other elders fell silent. Maya Brooks, what you have done creates a problem for my people. Our laws say outsiders who touch our cubs must die. This law exists to protect our young from those who would harm them. But our deepest values say those who save cubs, who bleed for cubs, who sacrifice for cubs, must be honored above all others. He moved closer until he stood directly in front of Maya. She had to crane her neck back to look at his face. These 2 things cannot both be true. So we must choose. Do we follow the letter of our law, or do we follow the spirit of our values? Maya's vision was starting to blur at the edges. She was reaching the limit of her strength, but she kept her eyes on Kreshavar's face. After much debate, the elder continued, we have decided. The law exists to protect cubs. You protected cubs. Therefore, you have fulfilled the purpose of the law, even as you broke its rules. The spirit matters more than the letter. Relief washed through Maya so strongly her knees nearly buckled. Lisa caught her arm, steadying her. However, Kreshavar said, and Maya's relief turned to dread. This creates a life debt. 3 life debts, in fact. 1 for each cub you saved. These debts must be acknowledged and honored. But you are not Vorkai. You cannot participate in our traditional ceremonies. You cannot join a pack in the normal way. So we must create something new. The blue-marked elder stepped forward, carrying a long wooden box. She opened it, revealing a blade. It was beautiful, curved, and gleaming, with etchings along its surface that glowed with soft blue light. This is a Vorkai honor blade, Kreshavar explained. Every warrior carries one from the day they come of age until the day they die. It is our most sacred possession. The bond between a Vorkai and their blade is unbreakable. Maya stared at the weapon, confused about where this was going. We cannot make you Vorkai, Kreshavar said, but we can honor you as we would honor the greatest of our own warriors. We propose this. Your name will be etched onto every Vorkai blade in existence. Every warrior, from this day forward, will carry your name with them. When we hunt, when we fight, when we celebrate, when we mourn, your name will be there. You will be remembered forever. The room went absolutely silent. Morrison's mouth fell open. Lisa's hand tightened on Maya's arm. Kevin looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Maya couldn't find words, and the enormity of what was being offered was beyond her comprehension. This has never been done for an outsider, the red and gold elder said. It has rarely been done even for Vorkai. Only the greatest heroes of our people receive this honor. But what you did, the sacrifice you made, deserves nothing less. Shenka's markings were blazing bright gold, brighter than Maya had ever seen them. The pack leader's eyes were fixed on the elders with an expression of profound gratitude. There is more, Kreshvar said. We will establish an alliance with humanity. The Vorkai have stayed neutral in galactic politics for too long. But you have shown us that worth exists in unexpected places. If one human can have the heart of a Vorkai, perhaps others can too. We will stand with your people. Any who threaten humanity threatens the cubs you died to save, and we protect our cubs. I didn't die, Maya managed to whisper. You were willing to, the blue-marked elder said gently. That is what matters. You went into that collapse knowing you might not come out. You made peace with death to save 3 small lives. That is the truest form of courage. Maya's legs finally gave out. She sat down hard on the bed, and this time no one tried to make her stand. The elders didn't seem offended. If anything, they looked satisfied. Do you accept this honor? Kreshvar asked. Do you accept having your name carried by every Vorkai warrior for all time to come? Maya looked at Shenka, who nodded encouragingly. She looked at the 3 cubs, who were watching her with bright, trusting eyes. She looked at Morrison, Lisa, and Kevin, on her fellow humans who seemed just as overwhelmed as she felt. I accept, Maya said quietly, but I don't want anything in return. I didn't do it for reward or recognition. I did it because it was right. We know, Kreshvar said. That is precisely why you deserve this honor. Those who seek glory rarely deserve it. Those who simply do what must be done, regardless of cost, they are the true heroes. The blue-marked elder approached with the blade. She held it out to Maya. This blade is yours. A gift from the Vorkai people to you. Study it. Learn its weight. Understand what it means to carry such a thing. Maya took the blade with her good hand. It was lighter than she expected, perfectly balanced. The etchings along its surface showed scenes of cubs playing, warriors hunting, families gathered together. And now, she realized, her name would be added to every such blade. The engraving ceremony will take place in 1 month, Kreshvar said. It will be held on our homeworld. Every pack leader from every clan will attend. They will each mark their blades with your name, and they will teach their warriors to do the same. In time, every Vorkai in the galaxy will know the story of Maya Brooks, the human who bled for cubs not her own. Over the following weeks, Maya healed. Her arm grew stronger. Her ribs stopped aching. She was eventually cleared to leave the hospital, though she stayed in quarters near the settlement rather than returning to active duty immediately. Shenka visited her every day, always bringing the cubs. Maya learned their individual names. Kreshni, the brave one who had climbed onto her bed first. Marash, the quiet one with deep blue markings. And Talanki, the one whose legs she had freed last, who always stayed close to her siblings. The cubs were growing rapidly. Within 2 weeks, they were twice the size they had been, but they still treated Maya as a member of their pack, purring when she petted them and bringing her gifts of shiny rocks or interesting leaves they found. Morrison came by regularly too, updating her on the political situation. The news of the Vorkai alliance had spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Some species were thrilled. Others were nervous. Humanity's status in galactic politics had shifted overnight. They're calling you the bridge builder, Morrison told her one afternoon. The human who united 2 species. There are already requests for you to speak at council headquarters. I don't want to be famous, Maya protested. I just want to do my job. Too late for that, Kevin said. He'd brought Lisa with him, and they were sitting on Maya's small porch watching the cubs play in the yard. You're a legend now. Both species claim you as one of their own. Lisa smiled. How does it feel to be honorary Vorkai? Maya looked at the blade mounted on her wall, its etchings catching the afternoon light. Honestly, terrifying. I'm just an engineer. I fix water systems and communication arrays. I'm not a warrior or a hero. You saved 3 lives at risk of your own, Lisa said firmly. That makes you both. The day of the engraving ceremony arrived. Maya wore her formal council uniform, though Shenka had also given her a Vorkai ceremonial sash to wear over it. The fabric was woven with metallic thread that matched Shenka's markings. They traveled to the Vorkai homeworld on a massive warship. Maya stood on the bridge beside Shenka, watching as the planet came into view. It was beautiful, covered in purple forests and silver oceans. This is Kreshnal, Shenka said softly. The birthplace of our people. Few outsiders have ever seen it. The landing site was a vast stone plaza, surrounded by towering statues of ancient Vorkai heroes. Thousands of warriors were already assembled, their blades gleaming in the sunlight. The sight was overwhelming. Maya walked beside Shenka through the assembled crowds. The cubs followed, now almost half-grown, but still staying close to their mother and their savior. Everywhere Maya looked, she saw golden eyes watching her with respect. At the center of the plaza stood a raised platform. Elder Kreshavar waited there, along with the other elders. Morrison, Lisa, and Kevin were there too, representing humanity. The ceremony began at sunset. One by one, pack leaders came forward. They spoke Maya's name in Vorkai, their voices carrying across the silent plaza. Then they drew their blades and, using specialized engraving tools, etched her name onto the metal.